Woody Wommack with Mike Farrell here on our weekly wrap-up show. Mike, let's get right into the topics. We know you got a busy day ahead of you. And boy, what a fun topic. We waited till Monday to record so we could talk about Notre Dame, Florida State. And all of a sudden, you're outraged.
so I'm not outraged. I'm annoyed. I'm just tired of it all.
Well, you're tired of what, though?
You're tired of everybody overreacting to everything.
Who overreacted? So let's back it up. Let's say what Brian Kelly said, right?
Yeah.
He tried a joke that was
horrible,
not funny at all. Horrible delivery about executing his team, which was a throwback to a joke that was 50 years old. That
right.
There's no actual record it was ever said anyway. It's kind of like an urban myth that the original quote was even said. But the point is that reporters supposed to ask about execution, then you make the joke, not you try to set it up yourself horribly. So when he said it, I mean, it caught everyone's attention because unless you're 60 years old, you don't know the original quote, and B, it wasn't funny and it was totally lame. Now, the thing that's turned into is you and Clay Travis and, some other people on the internet talking about cancel. Who's canceled? No one said he should be fired. It was just a stupid joke. He shouldn't have said it.
They shouldn't be offended. There's no offense there.
No one's
really
offended.
Think he wants to execute his entire team?
I'm
Do we
offended
really think that? Are we that dumb? Are we that dumb?
No,
you really think he wants to execute people?
You're arguing against no one. No one thinks he really wants to execute. Who said he really
why
wanted
are they offended and upset? And oh my God, he shouldn't have said that. Chris Fowler just said it's 2021 and he shouldn't have said it. Who cares? It's a dumb, stupid joke that fell flat. If I'm a coach, I'm just saying yes or no from now on. I'm not even saying anything. What's the point? No upset.
He shouldn't have said it because it wasn't even funny. Like, just from a comedic standpoint, it's lame.
Well, let's call him not funny and say it's not, instead of not proper for 2021. I mean, I'm just tired. I'm tired of all the fake outrage. There's just, because the first thing I thought of when he said that was, wow, he really fumbled over that. That was horribly stupid and not funny. And then the second thing I thought of is, oh God, Twitter, social media are going to be all over this guy because he said he wants to execute his stupid team. And I got people saying that he's killed a kid, that he's a murderer because of the incident, obviously, with the videographer.
Yeah.
So it is become a big, he shouldn't joke about execution because he killed somebody. Well, you know what? I don't think he killed anybody either. I just get real pissed. I get very pissed. I was pissed at Trent Dilfer's thing last week. I'm pissed this week. I'll be pissed next week.
Right, but you understand that you're more outraged than the people who are allegedly outraged, right? Do you follow that logic?
I am annoyed by everybody in the world. Even you said it. You said what? Or you tweeted what or something? Which I get. You're talking about a bad joke. Right. Yes. So here's another example. Last night, I tweeted that McKenzie Milton must be really, really bad. Right.
Right. Which was a shot at Mike Norvell, not at McKenzie.
Absolutely. McKenzie. 1,000%. And then hundreds and hundreds of idiots are tagging old takes exposed and you're an idiot. You're stupid. And it wasn't that I said McKenzie Milton sucks. It was called sarcasm. There still is no sarcasm font that I know of. So you have to put in parentheses sarcasm. I shouldn't have said it. I should have said, gee, Mike Norvell should really play McKenzie Milton. But everybody's so boring.
Well, I know what you meant. The problem was you got into you have a love-hate relationship with UCF Twitter.
Well, UCF Twitter is not very smart if they think that's what I meant.
Well, hey, we never said we were that smart. I mean, it's public school. There's a reason that UCF has 70,000 students and it's not a stringent admission process.
Bad joke, good joke, whatever. I just want people to take a joke and let coaches say stuff. Lane Kiffin is the most boring human being on the face of the earth now because of the stupid things he's said. And now he's the worst interview you're ever going to do, ever.
I can confirm that. Yeah, he's horrible.
Yeah. but he used to be super fun and funny and engaging. And now you've got this robot because he's afraid to say anything. And that's what we want, is we just want people without personalities.
No, we just want people who can be funny to make funny jokes, not be like Michael Scott. I mean, what?
That was bad. Really that was bad.
It was really a Michael Scott moment. I mean, honestly,
well, listen, Michael Scott's one of the funniest characters on television because he is awkward and he is stupid and he is inappropriate. And Brian Kelly is awkward. He's not a funny man, clearly. But, you know, if anybody thinks he really wants to execute his team, we shouldn't be talking about execution in 2021 and he killed somebody. Get a grip. That's all. That's my thing. Listen, it keeps me alive. This anger keeps me alive.
I just would love to be in a group text with you and Clay and a few other people. I wonder what would come out of it.
See, I do it because I'm old and cranky. Clay does it strategically to make money. I don't make any money. Clay is worth millions because he's smart and he does this garbage. He does this garbage on purpose. I'm just a cranky old idiot who's not rich, who just gets upset at people overreacting to stuff. So there's a huge difference. I would not be in a group text with Clay because I know what he's doing, and he's a genius.
All right, moving on. Notre Dame wins the game a lot closer than people thought. Now, this is like overreaction central. This room is kind of like I got a bad feeling. I feel like we were watching two average teams last night. Now, the Notre Dame fans have now decided that Jack Cohn is not a game. Take that, game manager. I mean, Joe Tessitore, I mean, what, you know, I could not believe during the broadcast. He's like Jack Cohn throws a screen pass or whatever, a swing pass into the flat. The dude makes four people miss, and he's like, another touchdown for Jack Cohn. I'm like, Joe's watched enough football games that he knows like Jack Cohn is having a good game, but he's not Tom Brady. And now the Notre Dame fan base, I feel like, is set up for a little bit of a fall. Let's talk about them first. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's two guys that do it on purpose. There's Joe Tessitore and there's Gus Johnson. And I love them both, but yet I hate them both. But they do it on purpose. I mean, Joe Tessitore is not dumb. He went to Boston College, which is a better school than UCF. No offense.
Yeah, sure.
And he does it on purpose. You remember the Longhorns are back when they beat Notre Dame. Everything's dramatic. Everything's over the top. Gus Johnson's the same way. Jack Cohn is a game manager. You know, I think they found a receiver in Austin last night, which they really need one. And if he stays healthy, we've all seen, you know, back in the day how good he can be. Their offensive line isn't as good as I thought they would be. Kyron Williams is very, very talented. David Tyree's fast, but the offense isn't that thrilling. Everybody says, I love Michael Mayer, okay? I love Michael Mayer, and I think he has a tremendous future. And I look back at the whole Darnell Washington is a 5-star, Michael Mayer's not. And that bothers me because I came out of Under Armour saying that Darnell is not. But you know, I didn't win.
Me also, because you remember which side I was on that day.
Yeah, you were on the Mayor side. And so, but let's be clear. He doesn't have great hands. Okay. I mean, that's something he has to work on. He dropped that key pass. Last year he dropped passes. So when I hear stuff like the sure-handed Michael Mayer, it's just made up stuff. Notre Dame has a few weapons. Offensively, they're okay. Florida State played with a lot of energy, which we haven't seen. They're okay, but neither of these teams are playoff teams. And I really think the game is disappointing mainly for me because I picked Notre Dame and they were up 38-20. And then Marcus Freeman, who's supposed to be this genius defensive coordinator, goes to a 3-man front and doesn't stop until the very end of the game and into overtime. And the 3-man front was just destroyed by the running game. And he didn't adjust. And I'm like, what is he doing?
So, that's one of my other problems with Cohn is they were up by 18 points with 4 minutes left in the third quarter. and they didn't score again until they kicked a field goal in the overtime. So it's like the offense was horrible in the fourth quarter. Like you couldn't move the ball. And I just think that like we all overreact to week one. Let me tell you something. I'm fading Notre Dame. I hope that's a big spread or whoever they're playing the next few weeks, and I'll be waiting for the big cash there. The second question I had, real quick, so if McKenzie Milton was healthy enough to play, why didn't he play the entire game? What happened there?
Don't know. I don't know. And you know, the announcers, the skinny Woody Wommack, as I call him, and Joe Tessitore, we're talking about. I mean, he looks just like you. I'm sorry, he just does. Greg McElroy. So they were talking about
Greg.
the shocker and the stunner, and you know, oh my God, we weren't gonna. He was listed on the depth chart as or, right? And Norvell said he wasn't going to tell you who the starter was until the start of the game. So my assumption was he was healthy and that he was okay to play, and that we would see him, and not when, you know, the quarterback loses his helmet and he has to go in much quicker than that, because they were not effective offensively other than a few big running plays throwing the football. So I think Milton, whether he started or not, I don't care, but he should have been in there by the second quarter.
I mean, he had 5 completions and Jordan Travis had 9. I mean, and the fact that, I mean, Travis's chin strap came off, and then so he should have been out for 1 play. So why did Milton go in and just stay in? I'm just sort of puzzled. McKenzie Milton, I'm kicking. I mean, like I said, if I'm a Nebraska fan, I'm really kicking myself that he could be my quarterback and he's not. I just, the Titus Scott Frost, obviously he recruited him to multiple schools. Yeah. And he looks good. And I'm still, I don't know about you, but I was kind of holding my breath, especially when he ran or when he
every time
stuff like that. But it'll be fun if he's the guy going forward. We'll be rooting for Florida State. When they missed that field goal, the whole like wide left, wide right, whatever. I was like, is this how Florida State fans feel? Because I was rooting for them because of McKenzie Milton. Is this what it feels like to be a Knowles fan?
Listen, I like Moy Norvell, right? But he made a few key mistakes. He didn't get Milton in there quick enough. He went for it, on his own 33?
No, that was insane.
So stupid. And that led to the 38-20. And then he iced his own kicker, and I get it. He kind of wanted the kick to be closer, and they reviewed the play, and it took 5 minutes to review whether it was an incompletion or a fumble or whatever. And he iced his own kicker. And I'm not saying that's the reason the kid missed the field goal, but it was a pretty easy field goal to make. But Florida State is on its way back. There was energy. That crowd sounded great. It's just good to have Florida State fans care and for them to be relevant. Now, I still think they get croaked, but not as bad. After watching the ACC, after watching North Carolina, pee down their leg against Virginia Tech, and watching how horrible Clemson's offense was, Florida State, they can make a game of anything, I think.
Yeah, I really like the crowd and everything. I mean, that was one of the sad parts about Florida State's downturn is they showed that. Remember the guy in the stands reading a book?
Yeah.
It was mostly empty, and you were like, "What is happening here?" So it was good to have that back, minus the tomahawk chop, which is just so annoying to hear through on TV. It's just like the band playing it at the same time. Personally, like, it's up there for me with most annoying band. But you remember when Tennessee used to do third down for what? Remember that? What's Little John?
Yep.
You know what the most annoying one is? It's South Carolina. They do that rooster, like
screaming rooster noise.
Yeah, it's the worst one. You know who the best one is? Oregon State with the chainsaw. They play the chainsaw sound on third down.
The worst one to me is the cowbells.
Yeah, but that goes on all. Yeah, I guess so. It's the same.
I can't imagine sitting and I would have a migraine headache by 5 minutes in, and I just want to jump off a building.
No, I went to a game there once and almost got in a bunch of fights making fun of Mississippi State fans. So,
How is that
anyway,
allowed in there? How are you allowed cowbells in a football
well,
game?
you're like, I remember they had changed the rule and they weren't supposed to be allowed, and then everyone just had them. They just don't enforce
Right,
it.
and then they said, "Ah, screw the rule."
Right, exactly. All right, let's move on quickly since you got a tight out today.
Tight out.
Georgia wins against Clemson in a real defensive battle. Neither team scores an offensive touchdown. Georgia fans are really on a victory lap today. They are celebrating, and we got funny TikToks and all types of stuff going on. What's your big takeaway from this one, Mike?
The big takeaway is Georgia's defense and how good they are in every aspect. I mean, they only struggled really in single coverage a couple times, Darian Kendrick and mostly Kaylee Ringo, who, Kaylee's new and still he's going to learn. But man, the blitz pack.
So much pressure. Yeah.
What's that?
I said, it doesn't matter when they can get so much pressure.
No, I mean, Jordan Davis is just a ridiculous human being. Off the edge, they've got so much speed. The blitz packages are so well constructed with the delayed blitzes, and I just think Dan Lanning did a great job. That's the takeaway. The second takeaway is both offenses suck, and they really did. Everybody says, if Wisconsin Penn State is a crap game because both offenses suck, Clemson Georgia is a crap game because both offenses suck. It wasn't a fun football game, really. Nobody could do anything, and you knew Clemson wasn't going to be able to move the football at all. Their offensive line is horrible. It's been that way for a few years, and I just think that they've got some issues. So I talked to you when I predicted Clemson would win. I thought they would draw in an overly aggressive Georgia defense and throw the ball over their head. Screen passes or something like. I didn't see one attempt to do that. It was either downfield or it was Uongalele. Am I pronouncing that right?
Uongalele.
Lele. Yeah, I always screwed up. So again, remember when it was Wagalele at first?
Yeah, I do remember.
I can't get that out of my head either. So, he was a statue back there, and the game was too fast for him. And the pressure was too much, and they just weren't gonna move the football. That's it. And they're talking about Justin Ross like he's lucky to be playing and alive, and he doesn't look like the same person. And they don't really have the weapons that we're used to. And Clemson defense is great, but their offense is extremely pedestrian. And JT Daniels doesn't look like that much to me. It wasn't a good week for 5-star quarterbacks. That was a battle of 5-star quarterbacks, and they both looked bad.
Reminds me of when I watched Shane Morris and Bryce Ramsey play a 0-0-7 on 7 game. I had never seen a 0-0-7.
That's virtually impossible. Luckily, Bryce Ramsey never sniffed 5, but Shane Morris was regrettably a 5 at one point, and then we dropped him to 4 finally. But oof.
So I definitely think there's like some creativity issues with Clemson's offense. I still think that they're going to bounce back. I just think that DJ got a little rattled. I mean, I was told during the rankings process that he was Cam Newton, and I did not see those wheels. Where was the wheel? Where were the wheels?
That's a great point, because he physically in high school, he's 6'5", 250. So there is the Cam Newton, because he could move, he could run. We saw him run in high school. Not designed. He didn't have to run as much. But, Herb Street was harping on it the whole time, and he was right about it. You got to get him out in space and let him run and become a threat. And, now people are saying that he's not willing to run, because they ran with Deshaun and they ran with Taj Boyd and they ran with Trevor. And why aren't they? No, it was just a horrible game plan. They made no adjustments at all. And I'm very disappointed in, how the coaching staff handled this entire game. I mean, Venables was doing his thing with the get back coach, and the defense was good. And Brian Brzee and Miles Murphy looked great, and Trent Simpson looked good. And they're just loaded on defense, but offensively they had no answer. They didn't try anything new. And he could have been a runner to keep him off balance a little bit. I think he ran once, but it was so sad to see him just in the pocket, staring at his first progression, right? Locking in, and then just waiting too long and getting sacked every time. I mean, he had no chance, and he was way over his head.
Yeah, it's weird because we saw him playing a really big game on the road at Notre Dame last year. They had lost, but I mean, he threw for like 500 yards. I mean, I think it's going to be a good reset for them. The thing is, like, we get spoiled. I mean, they had their chances. I mean, there was a few times where they looked like they were going to get a field goal, and then he took a sack on third down to knock them out of field goal range. I mean, there was a lot of punting inside the 50 or in Georgia territory by Clemson. But like you said, I think both of these offenses really got to go back to the drawing board and try to make their quarterbacks more comfortable. It's hard for, Clemson was missing EJ Williams, who could be like a kind of a security blanket guy. And then, of course, Georgia was without Washington. They don't have George Pickens, who kind of flourished with Daniels down the stretch last year. I like Brock Bowers. He looked really good catching. I mean, I like that creativity from Georgia, like getting the tight end involved. And I think some of that stuff kind of saved them as opposed to, we needed to see some of that from Clemson. So where do you have Georgia in your rankings? Number one, number two?
Oh, number two. Yeah, Alabama, the way they manhandled Miami, it was an absolute joke. Miami looked like, I don't know, they looked like Temple. They did. I mean, there's no difference. If you put Temple uniforms on them with owls on their helmet, it's the same thing. Alabama just absolutely destroyed them in every aspect of football. It wasn't fun or funny. It was just amazing. And Alabama is clearly the team to beat. Bryce Young is so mature beyond his years with his poise in the pocket and the way he moves around and just never panics. And they've got wide receivers, they've got running backs, the offensive line's loaded, the defense is loaded. I mean, I just don't know who's going to challenge them because Ohio State's defense looks suspect to me. Obviously, Clemson doesn't have the offense that can handle that Alabama defense. I don't think that Georgia has the offense that can handle them. And Oklahoma didn't look that good either. So who is it that's going to really push them? I'm not giving them the national title, but they're clearly number one.
So I was at the game, as you know, in the press box doing some work, pretending to at least. And that play early in the game where Young's under pressure and they were coming towards me in the end zone. I'm pretty high up. And you see John Mechie kind of leak out and you're like, oh my God, he's wide open, but there's no way Young's going to see him because he's kind of rolling the other way. He's under pressure. And all of a sudden he feels the pressure. He turns and he throws it to him wide open. And I was just like, damn. I mean, and he did it the whole game. I mean, he felt the pressure and the best quarterbacks kind of have the ice in the back of their head. And when we were having the debate about Bryce versus DJ, I ended up coming down on the side of Bryce just because he's just a master of control. And we've seen that over the years. How many 5-star quarterbacks that have been successful have that kind of calming factor? Deshaun Watson was like that. Of course, Trevor was like that. You never see the guy screaming at the sideline. You never see him look like that deer in the headlights look. Physically, you wouldn't think Bryce is like a no-brainer 5-star quarterback when you see him.
No.
But I mean, in that game, he was incredible. And Alabama, receivers. I was on the sideline pregame, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about him. Oh yeah, I forgot about him." all these elite recruits are just out there hanging out, and you're like, "Oh yeah."
And also the tight end Latu is like, oh, he's still on the roster, and he scores 2 touchdowns. It's like Billingsley gets in trouble, and Latu goes out there, and it's just like, oh, here's another guy who can catch 2 touchdowns. So it's like, it's really an embarrassment of riches. You always, like Kyler Murray, same way. Kyler Murray was always so small, and you always wanted to not hate on him, but just question whether he could do it at this level, this level, this level. Same with Bryce Young. There's no question. The guy's a winner. He's got the it factor. And those who don't panic in the pocket are very hard to find. And listen, I mean, if we don't have time for the Heisman thing, I'll just tell you right now, he's number one on the Heisman list for me.
Okay. All right, let's move on. We'll keep rolling through our topics so we can get out of here on time. Oklahoma, boy, lucky to escape alive against Tulane. They win by 5 points in just a crazy game. Of course, a crazy week with Tulane playing a home game at Oklahoma. Michael Pratt looked very, very good for Tulane. What a tough kid he is. Spencer Rattler, once again, kind of up and down again. So what's your concern level with Oklahoma after that game?
The concern always falls on the defense. I mean, offensively, they put up 40 points and they didn't have their best game, and they've got so many weapons. I mean, you saw Mims, you saw Mario Williams as a freshman, Hazelwood's probably going to break out this year. I wasn't impressed with the offensive line's push. I expected it to be a little bit better. I expected the running game to be a little bit better as well. But I'm not worried about the offense. It's the defense. The defense is just not good. And Tulane came out and exposed them. Pratt looked like an All-American. And, Chip Long had this figured out. And if he can figure it out, and Chip Long's a good coach, don't get me wrong, others are going to carve them up. So they're supposed to take this progression with Grinch, takes over, they're bad, they're better. Now they're supposed to be better. That was a step back, and defensively, I really worry about that.
All right. Big win for UCLA with Chip Kelly and company. I mean, really kind of dominated the game. I mean, it was never really in doubt that they were gonna beat LSU. And as predicted by me on our preseason shows, the Bruins are really just running the ball down people's throat. It's one thing to do it in the Pac-12; it's another to do it against an SEC front like that.
They are so good. I mean, again, I don't know if they're going to win the South. I don't know if they'll beat USC. I don't know, but this is what we saw at Oregon. This is Chip Kelly's type of football team. It's fast, up tempo. They've got guys that know exactly when to turn on the afterburners, when to cut, when to jump cut, when to stop. They've got receivers. They've got a great tight end in Dulcich that people don't know about. And DTR just looks so confident out there. They absolutely destroyed LSU. And it's disappointing to see LSU's defense get carved up so badly, and to see a guy like Stingley, who's so talented, have such a bad game. But UCLA's real, and I didn't think they were until I watched that game. They are real. Their offensive line is one of the top probably 5 in the country. So they're going to be a real problem, and I think it's fun because Chip Kelly's fun, his offense is fun, his teams are fun, and if he could do what he did at Oregon, we're going to have some fun in the Pac-12 finally.
Yeah, I wish I would have listened to myself and maybe bet the Bruins to win the Pac-12 South or win the conference, or they're over. Instead, I just told you on a show that nobody listens to. And
yeah, and I bet them in the game, but I didn't do any of that either. I didn't do any prop bets for the beginning of the season, but they were probably a good value because people thought Utah was the second best team in the South, and right now UCLA is the best team in that entire conference.
Agreed. Talk about a team that struggled and a conference that struggled. The ACC had a super rough week. And Georgia Tech goes down to Northern Illinois, the game that they were down 14-0 when Jeff Sims got hurt, and it kind of saved the day for them. Our boy Jordan Yates comes in, gets him up 21-14, and then Northern Illinois gets the ball back with a 2.5 minutes left. They drive down, score. They go for 2. They get it on a controversial 2-point conversion. And after the game, and Georgia Tech also didn't have timeouts left to set up a field goal. They do get a long attempt. It gets blocked. But after the game, I mean, Georgia Tech Twitter, holy cow. I mean, I saw a couple people saying he should be fired. Then I heard the reporters ask him about it after the game. Kind of crazy to me. And I tweeted that it was crazy because he basically took over an expansion franchise. What do you think, Mike? I mean, should he be on? I know you love the hot seat. Should he be on there, or what are we thinking?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, first of all, I think it takes a long time to really change an entire offense from what Paul Johnson did. Culturally and coaching wise, there's some questions. And I say that because I didn't see a team that really came out on fire. And I saw some mistakes made in the coaching game. NIU's not a horrible opponent. This isn't Montana beating Washington. I don't think you should be on the hot seat. It's a bad loss, but the ACC as a whole took some bad losses. And listen, Georgia Tech is who they are. 8-9 wins this season is really, really good. And there's going to be down years because they can't recruit, despite the fact that they're in Atlanta. They can't recruit with everybody who surrounds them. So maybe expectations need to be tempered a bit, but I don't think he's on the hot seat.
So they are recruiting better. I mean, there's no doubt about it, especially when I go to games around here on Friday nights. I mean, I'm seeing now I'm not ranking these players, so I couldn't, some of them I can't attest to, but I mean, I'm seeing more in-state players, way more 4-stars, of course. So when I said I don't think he should be, on the hot seat or whatever, I mean, it's game 1 of year 3, and a bunch of Georgia Tech fans replied and said, he is one of the more talented rosters in the ACC, and we watched him get pushed around and embarrassed by a team that was winless in the MAC last year. Did all of that on his home field. This isn't a rebuild anymore. That's an inexcusable loss.
They don't have a talented roster. Compared to the rest of the ACC, they don't have a talented roster. I would put their roster probably 8th
right.
in the ACC.
Basically, you have so it's year 3. Year 1, you essentially have no offensive linemen that can block in a non-triple option offense, right? So then year 2, you kind of remake the offensive line on the fly. Year 3, you got to remember, you don't bring in, unless you're Alabama, even Georgia, you don't bring in, even if you bring in a 5-star lineman, he doesn't step in and start game 1. I mean, there are some select few people that can do that. We see 5-stars go places in redshirt for a year or play a few games and work their way in. They rarely play right away. So you're talking about, Georgia Tech bringing in 3- and 4-star guys. They need time. Now, if they go 2-10, okay, he's definitely on the hot seat, or maybe should even be fired.
Right.
But I just think overreacting to week 1. I don't know. To me, I don't think it should be a thing.
Well, and they're overvaluing the talent of their roster too. I think in Rivals history since 2002, and I don't have this exact number, but I think they've recruited, honestly, less than 10 4-stars in the entirety of Rivals' existence. Because I looked at it once. I went back and I looked at it once.
That's insane.
Look at it. You got to look it up.
I did see a tweet when they got a commitment earlier this year from our Georgia Tech side, and I think it said if he signs, he'd be the first 4-star defensive lineman to sign with Georgia Tech, which I thought was insane.
I'm telling you, I looked at it and I was like, this is unbelievable, because I was looking at like in-state recruiting advantages of LSU and Ohio, and then I'm like, okay, what's Georgia's in-state advantage? And Georgia has like 1 billion 5- and 4-stars, and I'm like, Georgia Tech. Every year I click, 2004. No. 2007, none. It's just it's such a low amount. And yeah, I know they got 4-star transfers, Kenyatta Watson and people like that coming in, but it's just not a talented roster. I'm sorry. For where they are and the area they recruit, it's not a talented roster. It's behind Virginia. So Georgia Tech fans got to settle a little bit. Recruiting needs to get better. They can't lose games like this. But, listen, you can't fire a guy after 1 game. If you did, Clark Lay should be fired right now, period. 0-1 in his career, get rid of him. Jimmy Lake, gone. You lost to Montana, you're fired.
Listen, I don't – it's pretty tough when you lose to East Tennessee State 23-3.
You get routed. You get pushed around by East Tennessee State. They didn't just lose. They got destroyed and dominated. And Jimmy Lake's up there, Montana. Montana's best player went to Nebraska. They have nobody. These are FCS losses. So losing to NIU, I know they weren't good in the MAC last year. Traditionally, they've been an okay program. It's not the worst loss ever to me.
Right. We'll see how they bounce back. All right. Last but not least, real quick, Heisman Watch. You mentioned your number one already is Bryce Young. I mean, an incredible game, 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, against the blitz, I mentioned it, against the top 25 opponent. Really, is there anybody in second? Bijan Robinson? Is he your second
Bijan's
guy?
number 2 for me right now because all the quarterbacks kind of sucked. You know, I mean, you've got your Sam Howells, and he's already out of the Heisman race. I mean, you're just not going to get back into it after that performance. DJ Uungalele, I'm getting better. He's out. These guys can put up big numbers and they can get back in it. I'm just being a little bit dramatic, but a lot of the quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler struggled as well, that we expect to be the guys, JT Daniels, all the guys that were mentioned. Now we still got Matt Corral. He's pre the taping of this, but right now it's Bryce Young. And then I got a running back number 2. And that's good for Bryce Young because the running back's not going to win it. But Bijan is the real deal. He carried Texas as usual. With Jordan Whittington. You see how freaking big Jordan Whittington is now? Yeah, he's a big dude. I mean, we ended up making him a 5-star at the end, didn't we? No, we kept him as a 4.
Oh, we didn't? We argued about it. I remember that.
We did argue about it, but he is. I mean, I'm not talking like he is physically scary looking. Like I haven't seen a wide receiver like that since who was the dude in the NFL who was jacked out of his mind? He played at Florida State. Jacked out of his mind. Anyways, I'm off topic. Bijan's my number 2. I don't know who number 3 is. I don't. How about Will Levis?
David Boston.
I'm telling you right now. I was a little bit premature on Tanner Morgan.
Okay.
Will Levis has an NFL arm.
There you go.
He's going to be a guy to keep an eye on. Now he's weird as hell. Eats bananas with the skin on it. All that stuff.
Well, what about Jack Cohn? Where does he rank?
Right now, of course, with his 4 touchdown, 1 interception game, and he's going to be up there. 1 week Heisman rankings are stupid, but we do them. But no, I mean, he's got no chance to win the Heisman. He's a game manager. I'm sorry. And, Herb Street tweeted last night, already doing sort of like a flex on Jack Cohn. And I said, too early. And he responded, he goes, I'm talking about heart and I'm talking about leadership and all that stuff. And I'm like,
my Lord.
Okay, like that's fine. Let's see when the chips are down, if he can lead the team back. I still haven't seen a Notre Dame quarterback since Brady Quinn who can lead the football team back from a large deficit. And Jack Cohn's not that guy.
All right. So that wraps it up for this week. Mike and I, of course, will be back with our picks later in the week. We had 10. I feel like we recorded 10 pick shows last week because of the weird schedule. We'll just do one extended one next week. So be sure to check out on our YouTube channel, check out the Godfather and Gorney feed or the Commitment Issues feed, where you can find this show and hopefully our weekly picks. But definitely watch the video because, I mean, who wouldn't want to see me and you, Mike?
We are very handsome human beings. I mean, you're the skinny Greg McElroy, and someone told me the other day I look like Ryan Reynolds. They were completely inebriated, so drunk.
Did they ask for your social security number too?
No, it wasn't online. It was in person, but they were so drunk that they couldn't even see straight. And I said, yeah, I do look like Ryan Reynolds. Thank you.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, that's it for us. I can't even talk.
It happens. I get that a lot.
I get Fat Michael Bublé a lot, so
that's a good one too. Skinny Greg McElroy or Fat Michael Bublé. I just get Ryan Reynolds. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. That wraps it up for us. We'll be back with our pick show at the end of the week. Thanks, Mike.
All right.